so far I have not spoken about the technology landscape, and being an architect, that is one thing which is you might be expecting from me any day, and I have purposely avoided that because the work I do normally, it connects various streams together, and we try to build products, we try to utilize technology, or probably we can say we use technology as an enabling platform and an enabling function to support our larger product roadmaps. So technology takes a back seat because of that. So now you should understand why I talk less about core technology issues, but that is going to change. However, I will maintain a clear differentiation. I would not get into technology for, let's example, talking about one technology versus other technology, but rather I would tell you about the major IT trends, the evolution of technology, how the technology is changing over the period of time, and how these technologies are contributing to the larger product conception, larger industry movement. That would be the theme of these technology discussions. And if you are somebody who want to be ahead and remain in the touch with those regular evolutions and constant evolutions, probably you should join us. And I will also come up with, okay, lot of you want to know where I work, what do I do. I will come back and tell you that when my channel reaches some stage. So for me, at least I should have some thousands, few thousand subscriber, at least, for example 10,000, 20,000 subscriber base, which is willing to hear me. Right now my subscriber base is very little, so I will come back and share with you. And in my next video I have a lot of ideas, but I have one idea which has been toying up. I have been toying up with that idea is on my job hunting, how I am searching jobs, and what questions I am asking my future employer. Probably if you find that interesting, you should join us and stay connected. And please do like these discussions and comment, because YouTube is a strange place. It works through some algorithms which only detects user impressions, and the user impressions come from these likes and comments, and this is how the audience, the channel reach goes beyond few thousands and then more. So as I said, this technology shift, what technology shift I'm talking about is big data and cloud. And if you are little experienced, about around 10 years, maybe 5 to 10 years, you would have heard what a craze big data was all about, just about, let's say, 5-7 years ago. If you were in 2013-14, big data was such a huge craze. Probably if there is an equivalent, then it is data science in the current times, data science and AI theme. Big data was in 2013-14. And how and what happened in big data space. So let's understand first what was big data world or big data ecosystem in 2015. So it was driven by the Hadoop ecosystem, and we had data management layer, we had data access layer, data processing layer, and data storage layer. So if you look at these all four layers, there were various tools and technologies which were operating in each layer, and each of these technology required lot of effort. So upskilling were required. Some of the people who were from infra side went towards the data management side. Some people who were from ETL segment, they chose the MapReduce or the data processing engine, and the people who were core in the data file processing, and so HBase, HDFS or Hive, the data layer were used by database developers and many other peoples. And the people who were designing these systems were architects. So this was in 2015 when we had lot of technologies and they were evolving, and these were all open systems, open source systems. So what was happening at that time? So the whole focus was on technology. If you look at this big data stream, this was designed to help organizations utilize their commoditized hardware. So whatever hardware they had in the organization, it was conceived that they should be able to use that hardware for a larger goal. So the excess bandwidth goes into some kind of big data infra, and this was designed for on-premise data centers. So the technology focus was on clusters. How do we manage these clusters? How do we scale these clusters vertically? And those all things required upskilling on various things, as I said earlier. So we had Hadoop, MapReduce, Impala, Pig, Hive, HBase, Spark. So in memory, batch processing, they were all there. So streams, so all were there. So how the big data discussion started back in 2010, when we had this boom of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So Instagram is much later. So when these things came in, probably the new a revolution started in the world of data, and every company started giving data lot of attention. So because of that, every company started pushing for big data management softwares, tools and technologies and skills. But what happened? There were few challenges associated with that. So if you look at that, setting up this cluster, infra management, scaling that, though they tried to make it very easy, but it was still very complex. It was complex, and as I said, these systems were designed for on-premise systems. So running various pieces of technologies together had some bad surprises. So anytime you could face challenges, and the difficulties were you were not finding enough good resources to handle these things. As the size grows, maintaining these systems were becoming much difficult, much harder, and scaling was also very difficult. At the same time, cloud stormed in. So cloud started in around 2006 and 7, but the pace it picked around 2010, 12 and 13, 14 time frame was impressive. And that cloud migration movement, or revolution if you want to say that, that was shift from your typical data center, to the cloud-based environment, which was quick to scale, quick to provision. You had on-demand based services, and all of that was happening. So while big data world was trying to bring up and come up with new set of technologies which can help you set up these things in your on-premise environment, cloud came up with a different model, and that different model was not compatible with big data core philosophy till that moment. Later we saw some SaaS based big data companies also, but at that time that was not possible. Companies started pursuing their cloud interest first to save some of the infra cost or data center cost, and that prompted them to move away from big data. If you look at 2015 and 16, now in 2015 around, or in or around, we had a lot of companies which were providing big data solutions, and some of the famous ones were MapR, Hortonworks and Cloudera. Now all of these companies have disappeared. Cloudera and Hortonworks, they merged together, and they have I think reimagined their whole product proposition. Now it is not about big data or the technology around that, it is more of the data side. How do you facilitate your data migration, data processing, and how do you bring value out of that data? So it is nobody is talking about big data technologies the way it was conceived then. So now in 2021, what has happened is these clouds has completely changed the dynamics of the big data world, and this has disrupted in such a huge way that now the core technology, which was Hadoop and its lot of components, they are seemingly dead now. So you can easily say, if you upskilled about 7-8 years in those technologies, some companies still run those software, so you will still get that, but otherwise these tools, technologies has no scope now. Lot of things in big data world, I think big data has decoupled from Hadoop ecosystem, and it has become a concept. It is not anymore the technology which we were talking about, but rather it is a concept now. People still value that we should focus on big data, but not the way from the technology perspective. And if you look at in 2021 now, big data is becoming a data engineering now. You have data engineering courses in Azure, data engineering in AWS, and data engineering in Google Cloud. So what that cloud movement has done is, you don't need a fixed set of infra, you don't need you can always use on-demand services, you don't have to manage the infra, you can use multiple set of technologies. You want to use NoSQL, RDBMS, object, blob storage, anything. So some of these popular tools are still running around, which is one of them is Spark. So this is making a big change in this world. So every cloud provider now has its own set of technologies. AWS has its own data engineering pipeline, data processing pipeline. In fact, Azure has its own way of processing data and its engine. Google has its own set of technologies which takes care of data. So the technology has taken a backseat. So each cloud provider has their own way of processing, storing, retrieving data. So everybody proposes a new different architecture. Tell me, what do you think of this discussion? Do you like these discussions? Should I come up with more of them? I will come back with some interesting topics very soon. So if you have not connected, stay connected, take care and stay safe.